Okay, so guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today we have a video of Kemi Badenoch so eloquently dissecting the clear and unjust two-tier system that we've seen over this past week as it relates to Chris Kaba. We've clearly seen an attack on a public service worker like Martin Blake, who was the response officer that was involved in that fatal shot that killed Chris Kaba. Even though Chris Kaba had such a long time to comply with law enforcement, they were chasing his car, he didn't comply. They boxed his car in, he didn't comply. He was reversing, smashing into neighboring vehicles. He still didn't comply. They then came out, said, hey, freeze, come out the car. Gave him 17 seconds to comply. He still didn't comply. And then they fired off, Martin Blake fired off that fatal shot that killed Chris Kaba. Now, you must understand that that vehicle that they were chasing was being reported of being linked to firearms. So when the response unit is coming to handle that situation, they're thinking this guy could be armed. So you have to bear that in mind. But anyway, we've seen him being demonized. We've seen the CPS, Crown Prosecution Services, release his name in all lessons for the people to crucify Martin Blake. And then on the other hand, on the contrary, we've seen Chris Kaba, a man who clearly terrorized the black community and his community in general, was involved in a lot of crimes in the black community / his community. And we see BLM rearing their heads again and talking about no justice, no peace, and how he was apparently a diamond in his community and he had his whole life ahead of him. And we've even seen that statement being championed on by the Mayor Sadiq Khan, who is absolutely clueless in this whole situation and wants to be so woke. And we've also seen the woke brigade come to Chris Kaba's defense and say, yeah, this guy was, he had a past just like all of us. No, we didn't have a past like that. That past of trying to delete people and causing absolute terror in your community is not the past that we all have. Yes, we all fall, but not to that extent. This was clearly a man that was on a self-destructive path. And if he didn't die at the hands of Martin Blake that day, then he would have been sent to jail, or he would have died at the hands of a rival gang member. And if he was to die at the hands of a rival gang member, then the black community simply wouldn't care. They'd be silent. They'd be missing in action. But when it's a member of law enforcement or someone of a different race, then the black community and the black community associates seem to find their voice and start championing behind, in this case, Chris Kaba, and talk about how innocent he was in all of this, when in fact he wasn't an innocent man and he was involved in a lot of destruction. And the courts were going to bring him to face a lot of the criminality that he was perpetrating on the black community before he died. So this man was on a path to destruction. But anyway, guys, I'm going to play this clip of Kemi Badenoch talking about how she would give police anonymity and she would not release their names, which was very silly from the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, and she comes with some good ideas. So I'm going to play the video, and after that's done, I'll come with my analysis at the end.
Okay, so, look, the biggest story of the week has been the Chris Kaba story, I think. This police officer is found not guilty of murder. Do you think that the police have to do more to prove that they are not institutionally racist? And was the BBC right to say that the verdict traumatised the black community?
So I do not believe in the use of this phrase, the black community. There are many different people who are black, who have different views, different experiences, different ancestry. The idea that we're all, in a club somewhere making decisions together, all think the same and believe the same thing, vote the same way, is nonsense. That's number one. Number two, the fact is that this is somebody who committed some very serious crimes. This belief that you can do things like that and you're still celebrated by others just because you share the color of their skin is completely wrong. It is not right. This was somebody who was a serious criminal, and I think the worst thing is that a police officer had to go through so much just for doing what was right.
Okay, so you would actually back Yvette Cooper's decision now to give anonymity to police officers in future if they're...
Yes, I would do. I would do. I think that the police today are doing a much harder job than they've ever had to do before. Endless people filming them on social, putting the videos on social media. You remember the incident in Manchester where it was clipped to look as if the police were the aggressors when actually they had been attacked first. We need to give them some space. Otherwise, no one is going to join the police. I believe in the police officers in this country. I believe in policing by consent. We do it very well. Let's not mix things up with the sorts of things that we've been seeing where people are celebrating a criminal and pretending that he was a victim without talking about all the people who were his victims.
Just on that Manchester Airport incident, I know that Reform UK has said they're going to look at bringing some kind of private prosecution if nothing goes ahead. Do you think that's right?
Well, I don't know enough of the details to see why a private prosecution would be needed. I think that this is something that was pretty obvious and should go through the courts in the normal way. But let's see. Okay. One of the things I don't want us to do, you want to find out how I think.
Yeah.
I don't like us just jumping to things and, oh, this has happened, let's do this, let's do that. Quite often, the full details don't come out in time. The lies have gone around the world before the truth has got its boots on. So I like to wait and find out exactly what's going on before commenting. A lot of people want to dive in, but I'm a politician. I represent people. We've got to be more serious. And that's why I don't understand why you would go down that way instead of going through the courts process.
100% agree with Kemi Badenoch in this scenario. They should have granted Martin Blake, who was simply doing his job as a response officer, anonymity. They shouldn't have released his name to the public. And how did you even think that would go? You release his name to the public. Do you think everyone would just say, okay, cool, that's fine. His name's Martin Blake. We're not going to look for him. This is insanity. This is a clear attack on a public service worker that is doing his job. And then the public service will complain later on and say, hey, people don't want to be police officers. Why is that? They don't want to be armed officers. They don't want to be response officers. And why would they? When they can clearly see an attack on Martin Blake for doing his job. And they took every precaution to stop Chris Kaba. But this was a man that was not going to stop no matter what was being said. And he was a man that was on a path of wreckage and destruction. And also to add, the BBC should be embarrassed for stoking up racial tensions and playing a game of identity politics, talking about how this is devastating for the black community. It's not devastating for the black community. What's devastating is the woke mob and BLM coming to the defense of Chris Kaba, and that's what I will say. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.